Today I want to talk about composting, the process of organic matter breaking down into soil. Ta-da! And I've got a few things I want to show you. How I compost, what I compost, why I compost. And everybody's always talking about this free stuff, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to buy the vegetables first to be able to put them into the compost, as well as the eggs and all that sort of stuff, and the coffee. So, therefore, it's not actually free, is it? Because you have to spend money before you actually get it. But the good thing is, you take a lot of garbage, which usually would end up in the landfill, you take that out of the landfill and you put it into your compost heap, and eventually you're going to be able to feed the garden. So it's kind of like the circle of life, I guess you could put it. It turns into the circle of death if the compost starts smelling, but then you clearly don't have the green-brown thing, but I'm going to get into that later on. The right combination of that doesn't look particularly pretty, but at the end of the day, it shouldn't smell. If it stinks, it's bad, which is pretty much the idea I think everybody should be living by. If something is stinking, you don't want to go anywhere near it. People as well as food. However, so let's take you on to my composting journey. Yay! You have to turn the compost. If you don't turn the compost, it's just going to sit on top of each other, and then you've got brown and green and blah, 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 blah. They have to be mixed. I'm kind of not lazy about the whole thing, I just haven't had the time. So, that one needs to be turned a little bit, because otherwise you may as well just forget it. And then we can also... I nearly stabbed myself in the toe. And again... And then we can also talk about what can you actually compost, because there is a hell of a lot you can. I know it's a sad thing, but you know what? All the earthworms I get really, really excited about. Not that I start collecting them and play with them and then all of a sudden have a little village of earthworms and stuff like that. That would just be creepy. No, because you can see the way all the bacterias and everything and all the little animals work together to break down your vegetables, your coffee grounds, your unbleached coffee filters, blah. It's a vital aspect of your garden, and you know what? You can make it. You make it yourself. Sometimes I pee in it. Actually, I don't. Don't do that. You need moisture in it, but not that sort of moisture. You have to have a good balance in between the green and the brown stuff. Because too much green is kind of bad, too much brown is all kind of bad. Basically, too much green creates shit, and brown, and too much brown also creates shit. So, mix them together. Oh yeah, some people say that you should stay away from garlic and onion peel in your compost because apparently they repel earthworms. Well, you know what? We eat tons of garlic as well as tons and tons of onion. Personally, I repel everybody around me, but that is my personal choice because I like that sort of stuff. And you know what? Nut up every single thing into my compost. And so far, I have never ever seen that onion peel or garlic repel earthworms because you know what? We have millions of that thing. I'll show them, to you in a little while. So, like I said, some people believe it, some people don't. I don't. And you know what? Looking at my own compost, it doesn't do anything because, trust me, I eat a lot of onion. I mean, if I could harvest my own gas, I could heat my house for a year. Yes. Oh, and another thing, when we're talking about brown matter, that doesn't mean that you can crap into your own compost heap, because that's just not just wrong, and no, you just don't do that. And even if you are thinking, well, I'm a vegetarian, so therefore no, you just don't. You do not crap into your own compost. When it comes to composting, it's only organic matter, nothing that comes from an animal. So, no dairy, we're not talking any kind of dead cats or dead dogs or the insides of anything, or when you buy some fish and you gut the fish and then you throw the guts in. No, you don't. You can, on the other hand, you can shave a cat and you can throw the fur in. That would be okay, but no blood, no meat, nothing that comes from an animal. Hair. You could compost hair. And by the way, if you put hair into the compost, don't just dump what I did just now, a whole lump into it, just like sprinkled over it. It takes about a month to break down. So what can you compost? And what do you actually need to be able to compost anything? The thing is, all you need is 4 things. You need carbon, nitrogen, water, and I was going to say electricity. You don't need that. Carbon, nitrogen, water, and air. Oxygen. That's all you need. When we're talking about nitrogen, and carbon, nitrogen is all the green stuff. Carbon is the brown stuff. Not that brown. Nitrogen is basically what you produce in your kitchen. You've got your vegetable peels, you've got your coffee grounds, you've got tea leaves, you've got grass clippings. Okay, you don't produce the grass clippings in the kitchen, but you know what? You get them outside. So this is basically, what you see as nitrogen. The wet stuff, the green stuff. Carbon is basically newspapers, cardboard, pine needles, leaves, wood chip, this sort of stuff. When it comes to eggshells, they're neutral. Eggshells are the Switzerland of the composting process, which is nice to know, seeing that I'm adding as many as I do, but also I microwave mine. I do. I'll explain that later on, why, the reasons behind why I microwave my eggshells before I put them into the compost. What else is part of composting? Oh, you know what? I mean, I said it earlier. You actually could use urine, but I think that's a level of composting I really don't want to get into. There is obviously, then you've got composting toilets and all that sort of stuff. And you know what? If you want to do that, you go right ahead and do it. I certainly will not. And I don't think my neighbors would appreciate if I'm standing there and pissing in my compost. Hey. But there again, as I said, if that's what you want to do, you go right ahead and you be the extreme composting person. I'm not. So this is my trusted cookie jar, where I pretty much put every single thing I can compost in. So you come to my house, you want to have a cookie, you don't go to that jar because that jar just has garbage in it, ultimately. Well, it will be, no, it has garbage in it. That's true. And what I wanted to show you in the first place is, why do I microwave the eggshells? What I wanted to show you in the first place is, why do I microwave the eggshells? And what you can hear in the background is my son gaming with some of his friends all over the world, and he always screams. Anyway, so this is a normal egg. This is a non-microwave eggshell, so when you crush them, they tend to be just like that. Just, a horrible, sticky kind of mess, obviously. But in it goes anyway. With the microwaved one, you crush them and they are really loose. They crush a lot easier, and also they're not sticky, and they crush a lot smaller. So, and obviously, as we said before, some of the stuff, if you help the animals to break it up just a little bit, obviously it works a lot better, because if you just put one of these into the compost, it'll take like forever, at least it feels like it, forever to break down. And if you crush it up beforehand, it goes a lot quicker. And you know what? Sometimes it is quite nice to give a helping hand. Do I create like uber worms because I microwave the eggshells before I put them in? Could quite easily be, I don't know. But I don't think that there's any kind of, negative aspect for me microwaving the eggshells just so they break up a little bit easier for nature out there. So at least I don't think so. If I do create uber worms, maybe I should sell them. And there is so much noise in this house. They are building, my wife and my daughter, they redecorating her room, so they're building up there. He's gaming with his friends. I'm trying to create yet another mediocre video. And yeah, it's always fun in a house. Oh. The weather is seriously PMSing today. 1 second it's pissing down as it was earlier on, then it's kind of dull, then it's sunny, and this. You just don't know what to expect. Anyway, I am emptying my cookie jar. Oh, what I was also going to say, having something this size, it makes you having to empty it more often, because I can tell you one thing, if you don't empty them often enough and you've got them sitting somewhere in the kitchen counter, first of all, they can start stinking. Second of all of a sudden you have like a billion fruit flies everywhere. I mean, literally everywhere. And they tend to swarm around me a hell of a lot, and I get really pissed off with that. Anyway, so have something not too big. Something like this, And that makes you having to go to the compost once in a while, more often actually. Just as I said, to make sure that you have to empty it, because otherwise it's going to be stinking out the house. And the last thing you want is having your house smelling of rotten organic matter. Not good. And yes, I'm wearing that sexy socks and croc combination again. Why don't I ever think about this? Anyway, eventually maybe this will take on. Maybe everybody's going to be walking around with socks and crocs. I don't think so. Crazy. Dump it on the compost, and yes, I should be turning and stuff like that, but I did that earlier on, and you know what, frankly, right now, I can't be asked doing it, so I'm not going to. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, maybe in a year or two. Anyway, so the sun might be out, but it's like, glass cut nipple time.